Fungus gnats, also known as scarrid flies or houseplant flies, are probably the most complained about houseplant pest. Funnily enough though, they don't actually do that much damage to our plants, and that's because, as the name suggests, they're eating fungus rather than green plant material. So the larvae of the fly live in your soil and they will be eating rotting material in there and fungal spores and so on, but they don't generally touch the roots of mature plants. So they're not very damaging, but they are very irritating to us. They waft around, they're very tiny, but they can come up near your mouth because they're attracted to the carbon dioxide in our breath. So very annoying, if not doing that much harm to our plants. There are loads of home remedies for fungus gnats that you'll read about, but they don't really work. You may hear people say, oh, just water your pots less often. Well, yeah, that'll work a little bit, but it won't solve the problem. Or people will suggest sprinkling cinnamon on the surface of the soil. That really doesn't work. You may also hear people talking about mulching the tops of pots with things like this pot has got expanded clay pebbles on the surface, and while this will help to reduce the number of adult flies that can make their way to the soil to lay their eggs, it's not a total solution because these fungus gnats are really quite small and clever at wheedling their way in to pots in different ways. Through the drainage holes, going between the pot and the cash pot, they'll find a way in. So a mulch won't be a complete solution. One thing that is useful to get if you're having a problem with fungus gnats is some sticky traps. Now, these catch the adult flies. They're attracted to the yellow colour of these pieces of card and then they get stuck on there. This is a good way of telling how bad an infestation you have and certainly cutting back on some of the adults. But again, it's not going to be a total solution. It's just a way of testing how big of a problem you've got. So you can buy these sticky traps as individual label sizes, but this is a big one that you can either have hung up by a wire, or in my case, I'm just going to cut this up into a smaller piece and stick it to the side of the pot. And you do have to be careful with these because they will stick to everything, including leaves and your hair. So you've got two sides and you can pull off one side and leave the other side still intact and then switch around. So for a plant like this, I would probably stick this to the back of the pot like so and have a look and see how many fungus gnats are stuck to that after about a week in each square. And then you can refresh this with a new sheet and see whether the problem's getting better or worse. It's not a complete solution, but it's a good way of testing how bad the problem is. So you may be wondering, well, how on earth do I get rid of fungus gnats? Unfortunately, with these kind of problem pests on houseplants, there isn't a silver bullet solution that will work for all time, but there is something you can apply twice a year in late spring and late summer, which will keep fungus gnat populations well under control. And they're both biological controls, so that's something that a predator that attacks the fungus gnat larvae. And if you've got plants like this begonia, you can use microscopic nematode worms. You get the watering can, there's a powder that you mix into the water, and then that can be watered onto the surface of the soil. And then you need to keep the soil moist for a couple of weeks because the nematodes move through water to reach the fungus gnats and destroy them. And if you're looking for another natural way to get rid of fungus gnats, carnivorous plants like sundews and pinguiculas are fantastic because they do actually catch fungus gnats on the sticky surfaces of their leaves, and it's another beautiful houseplant that you can add to your collection.